Eve, I can't believe you didn't see it coming, Sophia whispered, tears streaming down her face. Dad's been lying to all of us. I stood there, frozen, as my daughter's words sank in. The phone in my hand felt heavy, the dial tone echoing in my ear. I had just overheard my husband, Derek, arranging to move his mother, Martha, into a lavish nearby condo without my knowledge, using our hard-earned savings. For years I had dedicated myself to my family, balancing my work as a nurse with the constant demands and complaints of my overbearing mother-in-law. I thought I was doing the right thing, keeping the peace, but now it seemed like a cruel joke. "Mom, are you okay?" Sophia asked, her voice laced with concern. I forced a smile, trying to reassure her. "I'm fine, honey. Just a little surprised, that's all." But the truth was, I was far from fine. As I went about my daily routine, my mind raced with questions. How long had Derek been planning this? Why didn't he tell me? And most importantly, what else was he hiding? The day dragged on, each minute feeling like an eternity. I mechanically went through the motions at work, my thoughts consumed by the betrayal. As I drove home, I steeled myself for the inevitable confrontation. I found Derek in the living room, casually reading the newspaper as if nothing had happened. Martha sat nearby, a smug smile on her face. "Derek, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling slightly. He looked up, his expression a mix of surprise and annoyance. "Can it wait, Eve? I'm in the middle of something." "No, it can't wait," I replied, my resolve growing stronger. "I know about the condo, Derek. How could you do this without telling me?" Martha interjected, her voice dripping with false concern. "Eve, dear, it's not a big deal. Derek just wants to make sure I'm comfortable in my golden years." I ignored her, focusing on my husband. "Derek, we're supposed to be a team. You can't just make decisions like this without me." He sighed, folding the newspaper. "Eve, you're overreacting. It's just a little investment, nothing to worry about." "A little investment?" I scoffed. "Derek, that's our savings. We were supposed to use that money for our future, for our children's education." "Don't be so dramatic," Martha chimed in. "Derek knows what he's doing. You should trust him." I felt my blood boil. Trust him? How could I trust a man who went behind my back, who put his mother's desires above our family's welfare? "I can't do this right now," I said, grabbing my purse. "I need some air." I stormed out of the house, my heart pounding in my chest. I drove aimlessly, tears blurring my vision. Before I knew it, I found myself at Aunt Grace's restaurant, the one place where I always felt safe and understood. As I walked in, the familiar scent of home-cooked meals and the warmth of Aunt Grace's smile enveloped me. She took one look at my tear-stained face and ushered me into the back room. "What's wrong, Eve?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. I poured out my heart, telling her everything. The condo, the lies, the betrayal. She listened patiently, her hand gently squeezing mine. "Oh, Eve," she sighed, "I'm so sorry you're going through this, but you're strong and you're not alone. We'll figure this out together." As I sat there, surrounded by the love and support of my aunt, I felt a glimmer of hope. I knew the road ahead would be tough, but with Aunt Grace by my side, I felt like I could face anything, even the betrayal of the man I once loved. As I sat in Aunt Grace's restaurant, my mind drifted back to the early years of my marriage to Derek. I remembered the way he swept me off my feet with his charm and charisma, how we'd dance in the kitchen to our favorite songs, lost in our own little world. But even then, the cracks were starting to show. Martha, Derek's mother, had always been a domineering presence in our lives. At first, I tried to brush it off, telling myself that she just wanted what was best for her son. But as the years went by, her influence grew, and I found myself constantly competing for Derek's attention and affection. I thought back to the day we brought Luke home from the hospital, how Martha had insisted on staying with us to help out. She took over the nursery, rearranging everything to her liking and criticizing my every move as a new mother. I felt like a stranger in my own home, always second-guessing myself. As Luke grew older, he developed a passion for music. He'd spend hours locked away in his room, strumming his guitar and writing songs. But Derek, ever the pragmatist, saw it as a waste of time. He wanted Luke to follow in his footsteps, to become a successful businessman like him. I tried to support Luke's dreams, but it was an uphill battle. Every time I defended him, Martha would swoop in, reminding me of my place. "Eve, dear," she'd say, her voice dripping with condescension. You don't understand that the world works. Let Derek handle this. And then there was Sophia, my fiery, independent daughter. She was always butting heads with her father and grandmother, refusing to conform to their expectations. I admired her spirit, but I worried about the toll it was taking on her. I remembered one particularly heated argument between Sophia and Derek. She had announced that she wanted to study art in college, and Derek had hit the roof. Art? He scoffed. What kind of career is that? You'll never make a living as an artist. Sophia had stormed out of the room, tears streaming down her face. I had followed her, trying to comfort her, but she pushed me away. You always take his side, she accused. You never stand up for us. Her words had cut deep, but I knew she was right. I had been so focused on keeping the peace, on not rocking the boat, that I had lost sight of what really mattered, my children's happiness and well-being. As I sat there, lost in my memories, Aunt Grace placed a steaming cup of tea in front of me. Penny for your thoughts, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. I sighed, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. I was just thinking about how things got so messed up, I confessed. How did I let it get this bad? Aunt Grace reached across the table, squeezing my hand. It's not your fault, Eve. You've been dealing with a lot, and you've been doing the best you can. I shook my head. But I should have seen it coming. I should have stood up for myself, for my kids. It's never too late, Aunt Grace said, her eyes twinkling with mischief. You know what they say, the best revenge is a life well lived. I couldn't help but smile at that. She was right. I couldn't change the past, but I could damn well fight for my future, for my children's future. I took a sip of my tea, feeling a newfound sense of determination. I was done being a doormat, done letting Derek and Martha walk all over me. It was time to take back control of my life, one step at a time. I returned home from Aunt Grace's restaurant, my newfound resolve burning bright within me. As I stepped through the front door, I heard Derek's voice coming from the living room. He was on the phone, his tone hushed and urgent. Yes, I understand. I'll take care of it, he said, before quickly hanging up as he noticed my presence. Who was that? I asked, my suspicion piqued. Just a client, he replied, his eyes darting away from mine. Nothing important. I knew he was lying, but I decided to let it go for now. There were more pressing matters at hand. We need to talk about the condo, Derek, I said, my voice steady and firm, and about our savings. How could you make such a big decision without consulting me? Derek's face hardened, his defensiveness kicking in. I told you, Eve, it's just a little investment. Mother needs a place to live, and I want to make sure she's comfortable. Comfortable? I scoffed. Derek, that condo is nicer than our own home. And what about our savings? We were supposed to use that money for our future, for our children's education. Before Derek could respond, the front door swung open and in walked Martha, a smug smile on her face. What's all this commotion about? She asked, feigning innocence. I turned to face her, my anger rising. Martha, did you know about the condo? About Derek using our savings to pay for it? Martha's smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. Of course I did, dear. Derek is just being a good son, looking out for his mother in her golden years. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The audacity of this woman to come into my home and undermine me at every turn. This isn't about being a good son, Martha, I said, my voice shaking with barely contained rage. This is about respect and trust. Derek went behind my back, and you're enabling him. Martha's eyes narrowed, her true colors shining through. Oh, please, Eve, don't be so dramatic. You should be grateful that Derek is such a devoted husband and son. I felt like I was going to explode. How dare she twist this around on me, making me out to be the unreasonable one? Grateful? I spat. For what? For being lied to? For having my opinions and feelings ignored? Derek stepped in, trying to defuse the situation. Eve, calm down. Let's just talk about this rationally. But I was done being rational, done being the peacekeeper, the one who always had to compromise. No, Derek, I'm done talking. I'm done being treated like a second-class citizen in my own home. I grabbed my purse and stormed out of the house, ignoring Derek's calls for me to come back. I got in my car and drove, my mind racing with the events of the past few days. Before I knew it, I found myself back at Aunt Grace's restaurant. She took one look at my face and ushered me into the back room, her concern evident. "What happened, Eve?" she asked, handing me a tissue. Through tears of frustration and anger, I told her about the confrontation with Derek and Martha, about how I felt so utterly betrayed and alone. Aunt Grace listened patiently, her hand resting on mine in a comforting gesture. When I finished, she looked me straight in the eye, her gaze fierce and determined. "Eve, you are not alone. You have me, and you have your children. We will get through this together." Her words were like a balm to my battered soul. For the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Hope that I could reclaim my life, my independence. "Thank you, Aunt Grace," I whispered, my voice hoarse with emotion. "I don't know what I would do without you." She smiled, her eyes twinkling with that familiar mischief. "You'd survive, Eve. You're stronger than you know, but I'm glad I can be here for you." As we sat there sipping tea and plotting our next move, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The road ahead would be tough, but with Aunt Grace by my side, I knew I could face anything, even the betrayal of those I once loved most. In the days following my confrontation with Derek and Martha, the tension at home was palpable. Martha's presence seemed to permeate every corner of the house, her manipulations growing more brazen with each passing day. She would corner me in the kitchen, demanding to know why I wasn't being more supportive of Derek's decision to buy her the condo. "After all he's done for this family, Eve, you should be grateful," she would say, her voice dripping with condescension. I tried to stand my ground, but it was exhausting. Every conversation felt like a battle, and I could feel myself growing weary. Luke and Sophia, bless their hearts, could sense the strain. They started spending more time at home, as if to create a buffer between me and the toxic duo of Derek and Martha. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, Martha made a snide comment about my cooking. "Really, Eve, I don't know how you manage to make even the simplest dishes so bland." I saw Sophia's eyes flash with anger, and before I could respond, she spoke up. "Grandma, that's not fair. Mom works hard to put food on the table for us every night." Martha scoffed, waving her hand dismissively. "Oh, please. It's not like she has a real job. Being a nurse is hardly rocket science." I felt my blood boil, but before I could say anything, Luke chimed in. "That's enough, Grandma. Mom's job is just as important as anyone else's, and she's damn good at it, too." The pride I felt in that moment was overwhelming. My children, standing up for me, defending me against the very people who were supposed to love and support us. Derek, as usual, remained silent, his eyes fixed on his plate. I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his shoulders hunched as if he were trying to disappear into himself. After dinner, as I was cleaning up the kitchen, Aunt Grace called. I stepped outside, grateful for the reprieve. "How are you holding up, Eve?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. I sighed, leaning against the porch railing. "It's tough, Aunt Grace. Martha is relentless, and Derek just sits there and lets her walk all over me." "I've been thinking," Aunt Grace said, her tone conspiratorial. "What if we came up with a plan to regain control? To show Derek and Martha that you're not just going to sit back and take their abuse?" I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. "What did you have in mind?" "Well, first things first, we need to secure your financial future. Start setting aside some money. Create a backup plan in case things go south with Derek." I nodded, my mind already racing with possibilities. "And then what?" "Then we start to push back. Subtly at first, but enough to let them know that you're not going to be their doormat anymore." I felt a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. I liked the sound of that. We talked for a while longer, ironing out the details of our plan. By the time I hung up the phone, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. The next morning, I woke up early and headed to the bank. I opened a new account in my name, transferring a portion of my paycheck into it. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As I drove to work, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was taking control of my life, my destiny. Martha and Derek may have thought they had me backed into a corner, but they had no idea what I was capable of. With Aunt Grace's help and the support of my children, I was ready to fight back. And fight back I would, no matter what it took. They had underestimated me for far too long, and now it was time to show them just how strong Evelyn Carter could be. With Aunt Grace's guidance, I began to redirect funds into my secret account. a little at a time so as not to raise suspicion. It was a delicate balancing act, trying to secure my financial future while still maintaining the facade of normalcy at home. Derek and Martha, however, seemed to sense that something was amiss. They started to question my every move, demanding to know where I was going and who I was talking to. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, Derek cornered me in the kitchen. "What's going on, Eve?" he asked, his voice low and accusatory. "You've been acting strange lately." I kept my back turned to him, focusing on chopping vegetables. "I don't know what you're talking about, Derek. I've just been busy with work and the kids." He scoffed, moving closer. "Don't lie to me, Eve. I know you're up to something." Before I could respond, Martha burst into the kitchen, her face twisted in a scowl. "What's this I hear about you undermining our authority, Eve?" she demanded. I felt my heart race, but I forced myself to remain calm. "I'm not undermining anything, Martha. I'm just trying to do what's best for my family." Martha's eyes narrowed, her voice dripping with venom. "Your family? This is my family, Eve, and you'd do well to remember that." I opened my mouth to retort, but Luke and Sophia chose that moment to enter the kitchen, their faces etched with concern. "What's going on?" Sophia asked, her eyes darting between me and Martha. Derek stepped forward, his voice smooth and reassuring. "Nothing, sweetheart, just a little misunderstanding." But Sophia wasn't buying it. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "Mom, what's really going on?" I hesitated, torn between my desire to protect my children and my need for their support. But before I could speak, Martha interjected. "Your mother is just being difficult, as usual," she said, her tone dismissive. "Now why don't you two run along and let the adults handle this?" Luke's jaw clenched, his eyes flashing with anger. "No, Grandma. We're not going anywhere. If something's going on with Mom, we have a right to know." I felt a surge of pride and love for my children, their loyalty and strength shining through in that moment. Taking a deep breath, I turned to face Derek and Martha. "You want to know what's going on? Fine, I'll tell you." I proceeded to lay out everything, from the secret condo purchase to the depleted savings account. I told them about my plan to protect myself and my children, about the secret account I had been building with Aunt Grace's help. As I spoke, I could see the shock and anger on Derek's face, the indignation on Martha's. But I didn't back down, not this time. "I'm done being your doormat," I said, my voice steady and strong. "I'm done letting you walk all over me and my children. From now on, things are going to be different." Martha sputtered, her face turning an alarming shade of red. "How dare you?" she hissed. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us." But Derek remained silent, his eyes fixed on the floor. I could see the wheels turning in his head, the realization that he had pushed me too far. Sophia stepped forward, her hand slipping into mine. "I found something, Mom," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Documents in Dad's office. I think you need to see them." I felt a chill run down my spine, a sense of foreboding washing over me, but I nodded, squeezing Sophia's hand in reassurance. "Show me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. As we left the kitchen, I could feel Derek and Martha's eyes boring into my back. But I didn't look back, not this time. Whatever those documents held, whatever secrets they revealed, I was ready to face them head on. With my children by my side and Aunt Grace in my corner, I knew I could handle anything, even the truth about the man I once loved. As I pored over the documents Sophia had found, my heart sank with each revelation. Bank statements, receipts, and emails painted a picture of a man I barely recognized, a man who had been lying to me for years. Derek had been siphoning money from our joint accounts, funneling it into secret investments and lavish gifts for his mother. The condo was just the tip of the iceberg. I felt a rage building inside me, a fury that threatened to consume me. But I knew I couldn't let it. Not yet. I had to be smart, had to play my cards right. I called Aunt Grace, my voice shaking as I relayed my discoveries. She listened patiently, her voice a soothing balm to my frayed nerves. "We'll make this right, Eve," she said, her tone resolute. "We'll make them pay for what they've done." Together, we hatched a plan to expose Derek and Martha's deceit, to bring their manipulations to light in front of everyone they held dear. I recruited Luke and Sophia, their eagerness to help a testament to their love and loyalty. We gathered evidence, compiled documents, and rehearsed our confrontation. The day of the family gathering arrived, a day I had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. Derek's parents, siblings, and cousins filled our home, their laughter and chatter a stark contrast to the tension that thrummed beneath the surface. I watched as Derek and Martha worked the room, their smiles wide and their words honeyed. They were the picture of the perfect family, the doting son and the loving mother. But I knew the truth, and it was time everyone else did too. I clinked my glass, drawing the attention of the room. "I have something to say," I announced, my voice steady and clear. Derek's eyes narrowed, his smile faltering. "Eve, what are you doing?" I ignored him, turning to face the gathered crowd. For years I have been silent. I have endured lies, manipulations, and betrayals, all for the sake of this family. A murmur rippled through the room, confusion and curiosity etched on every face. "But no more," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "Today I am breaking my silence. Today I am exposing the truth about the man you all think you know." With that, I began to lay out the evidence. Bank statements, emails, receipts, each one a damning indictment of Derek's deceit. The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air. I could see the shock on the faces of Derek's family, the disbelief and the anger. Derek's face was a mask of fury, his fists clenched at his sides. "Eve, stop this. You don't know what you're doing." But I did. I knew exactly what I was doing. "I know everything, Derek," I said, my voice cold and hard. "I know about the money, about the lies. I know about the way you've been manipulating this family for years." Martha stepped forward, her face twisted in a snarl. "You ungrateful wretch. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" But her words fell on deaf ears. The crowd had turned on them, their faces etched with disgust and betrayal. Derek's brother stepped forward, his voice shaking with anger. "Is this true, Derek? Have you been stealing from your own family?" Derek's silence was all the answer they needed. The room erupted in chaos, voices raised in anger and accusations flying. I watched as Derek's carefully crafted facade crumbled, as the truth of his actions was laid bare for all to see. And in that moment, I felt a sense of triumph, a sense of vindication. I had done it. I had exposed the lies, had brought the truth to light. But even as I reveled in my victory, I knew that the road ahead would not be easy. Derek and Martha would not go down without a fight, and I had to be ready. But with Luke and Sophia by my side, and Aunt Grace in my corner, I knew I could face whatever lay ahead. I was done being a victim, done being a pawn in their games. From now on, I was the one in control, and heaven help anyone who tried to stand in my way. In the aftermath of the family gathering, Derek was a man on a mission. He was determined to salvage his reputation, to paint me as the villain in this sordid tale. He called his family members, spinning tales of my supposed instability, my jealousy, and paranoia. He even went so far as to suggest that I had fabricated the evidence, that I was simply out to destroy him. But his words fell on deaf ears. The truth was out there, and no amount of smooth talking could erase the facts. Martha, too, tried her hand at manipulation. She cornered Luke and Sophia, attempting to poison them against me with her honeyed words and crocodile tears. "Your mother is just confused, darlings," she cooed, her voice dripping with false concern. "She doesn't understand the sacrifices your father has made for this family." But Luke and Sophia were not so easily swayed. They had seen the evidence, had heard the truth from my own lips. They stood firm in their support of me, their loyalty unwavering. As the days turned into weeks, I watched as Derek and Martha's influence waned. Their once tight grip on the family was slipping, their power diminishing with each passing day. I knew that it was time for me to make my move, to seize control of my own destiny once and for all. I called Aunt Grace, my voice trembling with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "I'm ready," I said, my words heavy with meaning. She understood immediately, her voice warm with pride. "I knew you would be, Eve. You're stronger than you know." Together we began to plan for my new beginning. We pored over budgets and bank statements, mapping out a path to financial independence. I started squirreling away money, building a nest egg that would allow me to start fresh, free from Derek's control. I even began to look at apartments, dreaming of a space that would be all my own. But even as I planned for my future, I knew that I couldn't do it alone. I needed my children by my side, needed their love and support to carry me through. I sat them down one evening, my heart in my throat as I explained my plans. I told them of my desire to start over, to build a life that was free from the toxicity and manipulation that had plagued us for so long. To my surprise and relief, they were fully on board. Luke and Sophia pledged their support, their eyes shining with pride and determination. "We're with you, Mom," Sophia said, her voice fierce with conviction. "Every step of the way." Luke nodded, his jaw set with resolve. "We'll make this work, Mom. We'll build a new life, a better life." I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, my heart swelling with love and gratitude. I had always known that my children were my greatest blessing, but in that moment I realized just how truly lucky I was. As the weeks turned into months, I watched as my plan began to take shape. I found a small but cozy apartment, signed a lease, and began to pack up my belongings. Derek and Martha, of course, tried to stop me. They threatened and cajoled, pleaded and demanded, but I held firm, my resolve unshakable. "I'm done, Derek," I said, my voice calm and steady. "I'm done with the lies, the manipulation, the deceit. I'm ready to start over, to build a life that is truly my own." He stared at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. "You can't do this, Eve. You need me. You need us." But I shook my head, a small smile playing at the corners of my lips. "No, Derek. I don't need you. I never did." And with that, I walked out the door, my head held high and my heart full of hope. I knew that the road ahead would not be easy, that there would be challenges and obstacles to overcome. But I also knew that I was ready, that I was strong enough to face whatever lay ahead. With my children by my side and Aunt Grace in my corner, I knew that I could do anything. I was ready to start my new beginning, to build a life that was truly my own. And nothing, not even the ghosts of my past, could stop me now. Months had passed since I walked out of my old life and into my new beginning. The journey had been challenging, filled with ups and downs, but I had emerged stronger, more resilient than ever before. With the help of Aunt Grace and my children, I had built a life that was truly my own. I was financially stable, emotionally grounded, and surrounded by love and support. My new apartment had become a haven, a place where I could be myself without fear of judgment or manipulation. Luke and Sophia visited often, filling the space with laughter and warmth. We would gather around the kitchen table, sharing meals and stories, making new memories to replace the painful ones of the past. Aunt Grace would join us, her presence a constant reminder of the love and strength that had carried me through my darkest days. Even my work had taken on new meaning. I threw myself into my nursing career, finding fulfillment in the care and compassion I could offer to my patients. It was a reminder that I had value, that I could make a difference in the world. As for Derek and Martha, they had become distant figures in our lives. Derek had moved out of the family home, taking up residence in the very condo he had bought for his mother. Martha, too, had retreated, her once formidable presence diminished in the wake of the scandal. I heard whispers of their attempts to rebuild their reputations, to paint themselves as the victims in this sordid tale. But I paid them no mind. I had learned the hard way that their words were nothing more than empty promises, their actions driven by selfish desires. Instead, I focused on my own growth, on the relationships that truly mattered. Aunt Grace's restaurant had become a second home, a place where I could always find a listening ear and a warm meal. We would sit together in the quiet hours after closing, sipping tea and talking about everything and nothing. She would offer advice and encouragement, her wisdom a guiding light in my journey of self-discovery. And then there were my children, my pride and joy. Luke had finally found the courage to pursue his music, his passion and talent shining through in every note he played. Sophia, too, had blossomed, her once rebellious spirit channeled into a fierce determination to succeed on her own terms. Together we were building a new legacy, one based on love, honesty, and mutual respect. We were a family, not by blood, but by choice, bound together by the unbreakable bonds of shared experience and unwavering support. As I sat in my cozy living room, surrounded by the warmth and laughter of my loved ones, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought me to this moment. It had been a long and winding road, filled with pain and heartache, but also with moments of joy and triumph. I had learned that true strength came from within, that I was capable of overcoming even the darkest of challenges. I had learned that family was not defined by blood, but by the love and loyalty we showed one another. And most importantly, I had learned that happiness was not something that could be given or taken away by others. It was something that I had to create for myself through the choices I made and the people I surrounded myself with. As I looked around at the faces of my loved ones, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I knew that there would be more challenges ahead, more obstacles to overcome. But I also knew that I was ready, that I had the strength and the support to face whatever lay ahead. I was Evelyn Carter, a survivor, a fighter, a woman who had risen from the ashes of betrayal and manipulation to build a life that was truly her own. And nothing, not even the ghosts of my past,